Hello and welcome to City Beat. We are your central source of news and information for the city of Rocky Mount. I'm your host, Tamika Keenan Norman, and today's show is all about the possibility of a school split along county lines of the Nash Rocky Mount school system, as proposed by some of our Nash County commissioners. The Rocky Mount City Council is opposed to this idea that would undo the 1992 merger, which created the current Nash Rocky Mount school system. So joining us in just a few moments, we've got Rocky Mount City Council members Tom Rogers and Ruben Blackwell. They'll share what the city of Rocky Mount provides to the school system, as well as the impact that this split could mean for the city and for the region. So please stay tuned because more of City Beat is coming up next.
There are already 61,000 workers on the job at 10,000 places of employment in the Twin Counties. Nash and Edgecombe are working together to bring us even more new jobs.
How many entrepreneurs took the leap and opened their own companies in the Twin Counties last year? 120 did, because we're really getting down to business in Edgecombe and Nash counties.
How many nationally famous artists are natives of the Twin Counties? 25 writers, singers, musicians, and actors took their very first bows right here in Edgecombe and Nash counties.
Hello and welcome back to City Beat. I'm Tamika Keenan Norman, and if you're just tuning into the show today, we're talking about the possibility of a school split along county lines of the Nash Rocky Mount school system as proposed by some of our Nash County commissioners. The Rocky Mount City Council is opposed to the idea and has mentioned that on 2 different occasions. Now, if new legislation is passed, what this will mean is that students on the Edgecombe County side of Rocky Mount will attend Edgecombe County Public Schools, and those on the Nash County side will attend Rocky Mount Public Schools. So here to shed some more light on this issue are our council members, Tom Rogers and Ruben Blackwell. Hello and welcome to City Beat.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I want to start with you, Ruben, to give folks some background information, because back in 1992, we merged Nash County Schools with Rocky Mount City Schools to create our current Nash Rocky Mount school system.
That's correct.
Tell me what prompted that initial legislation.
Well, what prompted the initial legislation was that integration had become the law of the land in 1970 after desegregation didn't work in helping people understand that we're living together on the same planet, in the same space. We should live together, work together, learn together, play together. And so integration became the law of the land, 1970. It was not achieved. It took 22 years to create a compromise that would blend all of our region together. There was a federal lawsuit that was filed, and the response to keep the federal government from intervening in developing their hand in developing our own form of school system was the compromise. There were 4 school systems, 4 separate systems. It was Tarboro City Schools, Edgecombe County Public Schools, Rocky Mount City Schools, and Nash County Public Schools. The compromise was that Tarboro City and Edgecombe County would merge together, and that Rocky Mount City Schools and Nash County would merge together. And today, since 1992, we've had the Edgecombe County Schools, which primarily develop outside of the boundaries of Rocky Mount, further east, and incorporates all of Edgecombe County outside of Rocky Mount, and Rocky Mount Edgecombe combined with all of Nash County to create the Nash Rocky Mount school system. So since 1992 until 2016, we've seen progress in race relations, we've seen progress in educational outcomes, we've seen an uplift in the quality of the physical plants that both systems have occurred, and we've seen an increase in educational outcomes for our students and opportunities for our students. And things have been working. Now, are we challenged? Of course we're challenged. I think that anyone that is alive and is a thinking person in North Carolina would understand that we have changed numerous times our approach to education. But this is a common sense plan that was created and brokered by the business community and by the community at large to say this is fair for our students. It unites Rocky Mount. It brings value to both Nash County and Edgecombe County, and we should move forward.
And there were some leaders who were instrumental in this going through as well, right? I know Frederick E. Turnage was a part of it.
Absolutely. Mr. Turnage, Mayor Turnage, Charlie Lane, Jack Lockery, at that time with Hardee's Food Systems, you know, Tom Betts, who's still around today, thank God, you know, and then we have members in the black community as well. Shelley Willingham, who is our representative today, is a person who filed the lawsuit, the original lawsuit. Willie Powell, my predecessor at OIC, was very prominently involved, and you have other members of our community who were all working together. Commissioner Wiggins today, he was, I believe, councilman at that time. You know, so, you know, we've had members of our community all across the board join hands to say a united Rocky Mount is a good thing for both Nash County as well as Edgecombe County. And it's the position of the Rocky Mount City Council. We have discussed it on numerous occasions, and we are all united in the fact that the Nash Rocky Mount system should remain as it is.
Thank you for that insight. That was some good background information. And Tom, I want to go to you now because Nash County has talked about some funding inequities between what they pay per pupil and what Edgecombe County pays per pupil. And interestingly, the city has provided that difference for Edgecombe County students since 1992. But what is that gap funding that the city provides?
Well, Tamika, it is the difference between the per pupil funding of the two counties. That number's averaged for the last few years around $500,000 plus or minus. It was determined back in '92 that ad valorem taxes couldn't be used to fund that gap, and that another vehicle would have to be found to do that. And the utility funds of the city of Rocky Mount were determined to be the source of funds to fund that gap. Now, what does that really cost us as citizens of Rocky Mount? It literally costs us just a few pennies a day, maybe even a fraction of a penny a day, depending on the year, because the gap changes over time. And so that's the cost of funding that gap. I heard someone the other day say, you know, he said, I am very glad to pay that gap because it helps to keep our city unified. Just to play a little bit on something Ruben said, you know, the city of Rocky Mount had its own school system up until 1992, and it was a good school system.
It was a great school system.
And interestingly enough, there was a school tax that we all paid that approached around 20 cents per $100 of value, which generated about $800,000 in revenue that helped to fund the Rocky Mount City schools. So it really allowed us to have a great school system, one that was well respected. It was great athletically, it was great scholastically, and just in extracurricular activities. So the city of Rocky Mount has always been involved with schools. And this legislation that created this special arrangement allows us really to continue to focus on education in our city. It is important to us.
So in the past 24 years since that legislation was passed, has that gap funding decreased any?
Yes, it has. The funding, the gap has decreased. At the front end, part of the original agreement was to build a new school for Nash County. So Rocky Mount helped pay for the construction of Winstead Avenue Elementary School. That's how Winstead Avenue came into being, you know, and by virtue of the fact that there was a need for a new elementary school within the city the city limits, that came into being. And so we're excited about that. That's a wonderful thing. At the same time, the Fairview Early Childhood Center was built on the Edgecombe side of Rocky Mount, or East Rocky Mount, in order to bridge that divide and create a resource for younger kids coming to the school system. So our investment has been very high up front, but over the years it's decreased according to the strength of the Edgecombe County economy. And I believe, and I hate to throw numbers around, Tom is our numbers guy, but it was really, it wasn't even $200,000 last year. It changes from year to year depending upon whatever that gap is, the strength of the economies in both Edgecombe and Nash counties. And our job has been to unify and even out and balance out the playing field for all students. And I would like us to keep in mind that this entire issue, okay, is an issue that was created because there is a huge need in the Nash Rocky Mount school systems for capital improvement throughout the entire school system. We are talking about, when you're talking about Edgecombe County, quote unquote, and the schools that are in East Rocky Mount, you're only talking about 4 schools that are left because Pope School has closed. You're only talking about Fairview, you're talking about D.S. Johnson, Baskerville, and Parker. And we've been told, frankly, that Parker will close. That's what we've been told. So, the investment that we have invested into the system is very small compared to the return that comes back to all of us by having a strong and dynamic system.
So just to explain it a little further, when you talk about capital improvements, you're
Yes.
talking about building new schools.
Building new schools, keeping the current schools that are there current and relevant, air conditioning, and making sure that they're meeting, contemporary building standards and quality of life standards and physical uplift and beauty. The thing that no one has discussed from the folks that are wanting to split us up is how is this going to strengthen the Rocky Mount economy? How is this going to strengthen the Nash County economy? How will this split strengthen the Edgecombe County economy? When we go to Wake County, I believe I heard a statistic that Wake County is building a new school every week or every month or something insane like that. They're the largest school system in North Carolina. We only live 45 minutes. If you're in the heart of downtown Rocky Mount, you can drive to Raleigh in 45 minutes and be downtown at the airport in an hour or less. People have the choice to be where they want to be. They want to see new schools. We have aging stock. From one end of Nash County to the other end of Edgecombe County. The real question should be not how to split us up, but how can we combine our forces together to create and generate more capital so that we have better schools for all of our students, so that we can create better outcomes and be a more attractive place for everyone to move here.
You touched on the economy, but the students, how could this split adversely impact students?
Well, it's going to reduce the number of students in the Nash Rocky Mount system, or the Nash system, whatever it may be called, if a split does occur. The study that was done by Nash County, the MGT consulting company, says, and I'll read from this, it says that the potential change in boundaries will result in a large reduction in the number of high school students and will have a significant impact on Rocky Mount High School as well as numerous other schools. The reduction in enrollment could result in fewer educational opportunities for the entire school population of this new system. So there's going to be less funding. I think it's been calculated there will literally be millions of dollars of less funding. That's going to result in fewer programs. There's going to be disruption in terms of reassignment. Perhaps close schools. That's a school board decision, not us, but that's the kind of disruption that might occur. And the athletic rating of Rocky Mount High School is almost certainly going to decline from 3A to at least 2A and maybe lower. There are a lot of questions about the impact that this could have on students that up to this point have not really been fleshed out. And so it kind of calls the question, are we really talking about the right things here? Do we really need to be talking about, as Ruben just said, about increasing the quality of education for the students of our community?
And my concern, Tom, with even the points that you bring up, are when there is going to be such a large deficit that has been documented with just the idea of what it is, much less what will happen when it's real life implementation, if that occurs. My question will be, who makes the difference up? Where is the difference going to be made up? Are they coming back to the business community now to say, we have our own system and we need you to help us build this school or buy some equipment? You know, will you help us, you know, create a program in this reduced school, you know, to try to find a way to bridge a gap that opportunity has been reduced because of this potential split or the split? And our conversation really should be, how do we bring more resources to all of our children, you know, in the Nash and the Edgecombe County region, so that they're able to compete more effectively in a global economy? How do we create an environment of collaboration and opportunity so that young parents from all over the country will say, I want to go to the Twin Counties because they're doing some things there that I haven't seen anywhere else? So our dialogue we find ourselves in is having to be adversarial in order just to retain some sense of working together. And there's no win in that for anyone.
Well, it makes me think about the abundance versus the scarcity mentality.
Right.
And the scarcity mentality would be trying to say we don't have the funds or we need to cut. The abundant mentality says there's a lot there. There's a great potential, and let's go get the resources to make this the system that it needs to be, that we all want it to be. Going back to the GAP funding one more time, Tamika, the good news about the GAP funding is that the gap has been declining over the last few years. As a matter of fact, it is now projected that over the next few years that GAP funding will essentially go away. And to me, the really good news, Ruben, is that Edgecombe County, in a press release that they did a few days ago, has said that they are now willing, over a 5-year period, to take up that gap, to fund any gap that remains, and also to address those capital needs that Ruben was talking about a few minutes ago. So that is good news. To me, it seems like that everybody is coming together to make this work. And we need, as a community, we need a little more time to come together to work out the details of this. We are in a much better position to make that happen than the legislature could, because we know that there are some efforts to try to get the legislature to take action on this. This is as Ruben has spoken, this is an issue that was controversial 25 years ago. It seems to have become somewhat controversial again in some places. But we're in the best position to resolve those differences. And we have the local knowledge and we have the willingness, we have the most at stake to make that happen.
You know, you touched on this a little bit when you talked about collaboration is key, but, you know, I thought about the city. Of course, some people may not know this yet, but we just created a diversity and inclusion plan. We've been working on this for a while now. But how could this split impact our efforts to create a diverse and inclusive region, in city and region?
Well, we've been intentional, haven't we, Tom?
Yeah.
We've been intentional as a city council body. We are diverse ourselves. And diversity extends well beyond race. You know, this system and in America, you know, it's not like Rocky Mount was on an island. You know, we were part and still are part of America, and the dialogue that was happening about equalizing opportunities for everyone. And now that we're here, we need to figure out how to now step up our game. And again, I'll just say to you, I remember Jim Johnson when he came from UNC Chapel Hill several years ago. He told us there are 13,000 communities all over the world recruiting business and industry, and that we think we are competing with Wilson or Greenville or even Raleigh. We're competing with everyone all over the world to have the very best location that anyone could possibly want to be. We're recruiting for quality of life. You know, quality of life is not just saying good things, it's being a great community. We need diversity, we need inclusion, and we need everyone to come to the table and say that there is value in every child everywhere, you know.
Tamika, I am very proud of what the city's done around diversity and inclusion, and I hope as citizens find out more about it, they will be too. A split in the school system divides, and it separates, and schools bring people together. They naturally bring people together. They build relationships, they build friendships, they generate collaboration. And so that's why splitting this is so hurtful to our efforts as a city. The best cities where people want to live embrace and celebrate diversity. We, I think, are a diverse community, as Ruben's pointed out. Our country has become much more so. All demographers say it's going to become even more so. So we've got to decide as a community, do we want to kind of get stuck back in the 20th century, or do we want to be a part of the 21st century? Do we want to be a place where millennials want to live, where they want to come and live? And do we want to create a vibrant community that respects people and really plays off what we've all been taught about loving each other, respecting each other, caring for each other? If we do that, we will be a place that people will want to be. And dividing our city does not help in that regard.
There are demographic trends that that we're challenged by in the Twin Counties, not just in Rocky Mount, it's the Twin Counties. We will either be an economy that ages, and all of our attention and our funding and our resources will go to support an aging population with no youth coming into the scene to take care of those of us who are here and who are aging. I'm in that category too. You know, and hopefully we all are, because there's only one way to get out of it, right? And that's to go away. So we want to be a place, as Tom says, that everyone wants to live. And we must have a vibrant, unified school system to recruit and attract young people here with children. We need to let everybody know everyone's welcome.
And I'll just echo one other thing Ruben said earlier. We also need to expand that collaboration even with Edgecombe County to work even more closely together. Because we really function as a region. I mean, and that's how we're going to get stronger, to build that collaboration.
One of the myths, I believe, that we all are operating under, that the past dictates the future. In the past, you know, Edgecombe County was not as aggressive as Nash County in prioritizing industrial development and recruitment. And because of that recalcitrance, because of that reluctance to change and get with the times, they found themselves in a position where then they became way behind the race. Well, new elected leadership changed that perspective. They did things, they made investments in infrastructure. And today, Edgecombe County has the only major site in this entire state, you know, a super site, you know, with rail, gas, water, electricity, that is able to recruit and attract a large industry, another Cummings, another Hospira. No site exists like that anywhere in North Carolina except in Edgecombe County. There are several folks that are looking at Edgecombe County. There are many active projects in Edgecombe County. So things will change in the future. And instead of us leveraging that opportunity and expanding it, it now appears that we're going to sit around and try to divide. That's not how you win. You win by multiplying and leveraging your resources, not by subtracting and dividing and splitting us up.
Okay. This has really been interesting. But I do want to ask an additional question, because one of the things that we haven't gotten is a lot of feedback from folks.
Right.
So what is our call to action? What do you want to say to people? What can they do if they don't agree with this split of the school system?
Well, first of all, you know, what I always advocate is that, you know, the backroom conversations need to come out in the public. And I think that one of the reasons that perhaps we haven't had a lot of public commentary about it is because it's complicated, it's convoluted. People don't want to make rash decisions. They hear speaking points. They don't know a lot of detail. So the first thing I'd say is get educated yourself about the facts, not just the talk speak. The second thing is that there is a petition that's being circulated to keep our schools, save our schools, I believe it's called. So if you have an interest in supporting this effort and keeping us as a united community as far as our educational systems are concerned, we ask that you complete that petition, fill it out, and let somebody know. The other thing that we need to do, and we have it as a culture at the Rocky Mount City Council, we're always open up our meetings with public commentary opportunities. And so we invite people to come talk to us individually as council members or together. But more importantly, we need you to go to the county commissioners. You need to tell your county commissioners how you feel, your school board members how you feel. And we need people putting pressure on elected officials who are supposed to be making decisions for the benefit of us all, with regard and respect to protect the most fragile of us all. That is the beauty of American democracy. It's not just that majority rules, it's that majority rules with the mindset of taking care of the least of these. That's the America that I think people come here from all over the world to participate in. That's why we have immigration issues, because it's the best place in the world to be. So we're saying we want everyone to come to the Twin Counties, and we want them when they get here to find that it's the best place truly to live, not just because we said it, but because it really is.
I am struck by the number of people who have written letters. A few months ago, there were a number of letters written from local respected business people who said, we think this current system works. We do think you ought to take a look at it to see if it can be improved, but we think it works to stay the way it is. The MGT study that Nash County did speaks to how complicated the funding is. But in very simple terms, the funding is really pretty easy to understand. It's the difference between the two per pupil funding, and the city has bridged that gap, so to speak. But it's literally a few pennies per person. So it's not like the citizens of Rocky Mount are carrying some great burden to help maintain a school system. As a matter of fact, most people I speak to say we're glad to do it because we want the system to stay intact. I agree completely with what Ruben is saying about calling on local elected officials, those who are here, those who are in Raleigh, to let them know that we like things the way they are and we want to see them improved, and that we're going to work together to help make that happen. It is fair to me to ask the question, after 24 years, it's fair to ask the question, can the funding formula be tweaked? Of course that's a fair question. But it is also very reasonable at the same time to say education should be the priority. Educating our children, that's been left out of this discussion, Ruben.
Completely.
That's what's reasonable about what we should be doing, is to be talking about educating our students and building a strong region. And so that's what we need to be talking about, and that's what we need to be doing.
Thank you all so much. Anything else that you want to add to the discussion?
We appreciate the opportunity. We know you're concerned and you're interested, and we do ask you to use your voice. Your voice is powerful. Use it. We need it. We'll continue to work to keep Rocky Mount strong and the Twin Counties growing together as a region.
Well, I'll say this. It's interesting that Ruben and I are sitting here today. I know we're not here for this reason, but a few years ago we both chaired education for the Chamber of Commerce. And we had a number of conversations during that period of time in which we said that what our region needs is the equivalent of John Kennedy saying we're going to send an astronaut to the moon before the decade is out. We need that same clarion call about education in this region for Nash Rocky Mount and for Edgecombe County. And finally, I guess I would say that, and Ruben alluded to this earlier, as I've reflected on it, a wise, diverse group of people 25 years ago advocated for this system. And they advocated for it because they knew that we needed to keep Rocky Mount intact. It is the economic engine of our region. 40%, I believe, of the tax base for Nash County is in Rocky Mount, and I believe Rocky Mount generates 60% of the sales tax that Nash County enjoys. So it is very logical that we keep Rocky Mount a strong city, and we do that by keeping it intact, and we do it by building a world-class education system for this city and for this region. And we need to continue what those wise people started 25 years ago.
That's right.
We need to take it to the next level.
Well, thank you both so much for shedding some light on this. I really do appreciate it. I know our viewers appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you're just tuning into the show and you want to see this interview in its entirety, please also share it with your friends. Log on to RockyMountNC.gov and click on the link to City TV 19's YouTube channel. We'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in to City Beat.
Know why the Twin Counties was named the most charitable area in North Carolina? It's because the generous folks of Edgecombe and Nash gave $120 million to charities last year.
Do you know how many children play in teams in the Twin Counties? Well, 2,500 kids are learning to be good sports in athletic leagues all across Nash and Edgecombe.
If you're seeking a house of worship in the Twin Counties, count your blessings, because in Nash and Edgecombe, there are 263 churches serving 45 different denominations.
Hello and welcome back to City Beat. I'm Tamika Keenan Norman, and I do want to say thanks again to Tom Rogers and Ruben Blackwell for joining us on the show today. They gave us a lot of information about the possibility of a school split along county lines of the Nash Rocky Mount school system. So if you want to see the show in its entirety, you can always log on to RockyMountNC.gov to link to City TV 19's YouTube channel. On a much lighter note, we've got a lot of events coming to the area, like Downtown Live. Downtown Live started May 12th and is going through September 29th on the Imperial Center lawn every other Thursday. Doors open at 5, music starts at 6. Hear live music from bands like the Tams, the Embers featuring Craig Woolard, the Band of Oz, and more. Admission is absolutely free, and in the event of rain, Downtown Live will take place at the Booker T Theater. The Juneteenth Community Empowerment Festival is also coming back to downtown Rocky Mount's Douglas Block. This year's Juneteenth features the R&B group Jagged Edge. You can also check out music from the Stephen Pender Band, the Generation Next Band, a bike rodeo, and keynote speaker, Superior Court Judge Milton F. Toby Fitch Jr. There's jazz, which takes place Friday, June 3rd from 7 until 10 p.m. And the event also takes place Saturday, June 4th from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. Admission is free. And finally, get the kids for Lawn Chair Theater on the Imperial Center lawn, June 17th to July 29th. Doors open at 7 p.m. Movies start at 8:30. This year's Lawn Chair Theater features movies like Tomorrowland, Minions, Zootopia, Inside Out, and more. In the event of rain, Lawn Chair Theater will take place in the Imperial Center's Education Building. So many events are happening right here in Rocky Mount. If you want a full list or more information, visit the website at downtownrockymount.com. Or if you want to be the first to hear about our events, become a VIP and text CityBeat, one word, CityBeat, to 55469. I'm Tamika Keenan Norman, and thanks again for tuning in to another edition of City Beat. I hope you enjoyed it. In the event of rain, Downtown Live will take place at the Booker T Theater. The Juneteenth Community Empowerment Festival is also coming back to downtown Rocky Mount's Douglas Block. This year's Juneteenth features the R&B group Jagged Edge. You can also check out music from the Stephen Pender Band, the Generation Next Band, a bike rodeo, and keynote speaker, Superior Court Judge Milton F. Toby Fitch Jr. There's jazz, which takes place Friday, June 3rd from 7 until 10 p.m. And the event also takes place Saturday, June 4th from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. Admission is free. And finally, get the kids for Lawn Chair Theater on the Imperial Center lawn, June 17th to July 29th. Doors open at 7 p.m. Movies start at 8:30. This year's Lawn Chair Theater features movies like Tomorrowland, Minions, Zootopia, Inside Out, and more. In the event of rain, Lawn Chair Theater will take place in the Imperial Center's Education Building. So many events are happening right here in Rocky Mount. If you want a full list or more information, visit the website at downtownrockymount.com. Or if you want to be the first to hear about our events, become a VIP and text CityBeat, one word, CityBeat, to 55469. I'm Tamika Keenan Norman, and thanks again for tuning in to another edition of City Beat. I hope you enjoyed it.